So I remember I'm sitting one time at work and I was like, God, what is going on? And it's almost like I heard change is on the way. And I kept saying, change is on the way. And I just kept that the whole day. Came home, grabbed my piano, and honestly wrote the whole song, Change is on the Way.
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Kurtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio, and Ayiesha Woods, Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and musician. Together, they talk with artists and industry insiders to discover our connection between music and faith. You can connect with us on Facebook or Twitter at Between Grooves. Now, here's James and Ayiesha.
Excuse me.
Oh, keeping you awake there? Did you hear that? Aisha's yawning already. We haven't even got into our conversation yet. What's going on?
That might have, honestly, I think that was a hungry yawn. Hungry already.
Yeah.
I didn't eat any breakfast today, and I probably should have, but I did not.
Right, so you need the food to wake you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just need coffee, and I'm good with that. But,
oh, my gosh.
We really need to come up with a blooper reel. And I know Justine's been recording some stuff that maybe we didn't necessarily want to air on any of our episodes, but we've had some moments. And so we might have to come up with a special blooper episode or whatever else if we've got enough content. Yeah. That would be a lot of fun. Anyways, with all that being said, welcome to episode 243. This is going to be a great conversation.
This is a great conversation.
We are going to be chatting with R&B pop singer, songwriter, and podcaster Tuzee, and she's a relatively new Christian artist on the Canadian scene. I don't know why we would even use the term new artist, because her music is great, and she's on her way to coming up with a lot of great songs. She's got a song right now called Change is on the Way, and it's just this song that just it grows on you. It's got a great beat. And in this conversation, I'll mention this to you now, but in the conversation, I even mentioned the fact that it reminds me, or her style reminds me a lot of about you, Ayiesha, and your style of music. It's just got that rhythm to it, that flavor, if you know what I'm talking about, So
sure enough.
Yeah.
And she reminds me of Nicole Mullen, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, Nicole C. Mullen. So there's all of that. So let's get right into it. Tuzee on Between the Grooves. What a pleasure to have an R&B pop artist, singer, songwriter, even podcaster on today's show. Tuzee, you were born and raised in Liberia, correct?
That is correct.
What are you laughing about, Ayiesha?
Because it sounded like you said Tuesday.
Tuesday. Well, it's funny because she has a podcast called Tuzee Tuesday. So how's that for a mouthful, right?
I saw that.
Yeah. So, sorry. So you came to Canada when?
I have been here for about 15 years now.
Okay, and how old were you when you moved?
I think I was just turning 20, very early. I was just turning 20, I think.
Right, okay. So you were brand new coming to Canada. What was that like for you? Big transition?
It was. Oh my goodness. It was. I'm from a family, we're a very big family. I have 6 other siblings, and my parents, we all lived, in Liberia, so different from Canada and the US. We all lived together in the same house. So coming to Canada, because I came with my husband, who is a Canadian. It was just me and my husband in my house, and that was one of the hardest thing, moving from a house where there's full of people to here where it's just me. And that was hard, but we're humans, we're adaptable, I guess. So.
When I first got married, my wife and I lived in an apartment building that overlooked a highway. And so all night long, you heard the cars coming by. It doesn't matter how many window panes you have and how many.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, like you could hear the noise. And when we finally bought a house and moved away, we moved from basically the Toronto area outside the outskirts. There's a city called Brampton where we still live today. And when we moved into that house, I remember the first night sleeping in that house because our house backed away from a street, but we were on the other side. The bedroom was on the other side. And it was so quiet. It was almost like, wow, like, where am I? Am I...
You had to get used to it, huh?
Yeah, you had to get used to it. So I can understand what you're saying. If you lived in a house with like 20 people and now you're in a house with just you and your husband, like, hello, anybody there, right?
Just echo. It's funny because when you're in a house with all your siblings, and sometimes it's like, I just want peace and quiet. But then when you have it, it's like, oh, I wish there was some noise.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's been great being in Canada, but it's hard leaving your whole life behind, like your whole family and everything, to start a whole new life is hard.
So were you doing music in Liberia, or did you start that in Canada?
So we've always sang. Like, I actually, to answer your question before I go into detail, like, I actually started writing and singing my own stuff when I came to Canada. But back home, I'm sorry, I'm going to say a lot of back home. Canada is my home. Absolutely. I love Canada.
My wife's from Guyana, so I'm used to that back home deal.
That's right. Better know it.
But there's something about when I'm talking, it's just like back home all the time. But no, like in Liberia, my family sang. Like my dad, my siblings, we all sang. And like at church, in a choir, we all did that. But coming to Canada was when I actually started to really write and sing, actually, for myself.
That's neat. So Tuzee, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Tuzee your given name, or is it a stage name? Where did it come from?
I'm laughing because, you're not the only one that asked me, is it really your name? It actually is my given name, believe it or not.
Wow.
I tell people my parents.
Awesome.
So this is the thing. I was born on Tuesday. So my dad called me Tuzee, and they just call me Tuzee.
Wow.
So, so it's stuck. And, it is my given name. People call me. So when James said, when you say you heard Tuesday, I was laughing because a lot of people, like my patients here, call me Tuesday. Whenever I say I'm Tuzee, they're like, oh, Tuesday. No, I'm like, no, I'm Tuesday. But it's actually my given name. So, yeah.
So when you say patients, that's because your day job, you're a nurse, correct?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was talking about nursing. Yeah, my patients in nursing.
Well, there's two kinds of patients, right? The patients that you look after, and then what you need with your husband sometimes.
You mean sometimes or most times?
Yeah. Hey, we're all there. We know. We understand. But I guess being a nurse, that's been a busy couple of years for you. That and your music career.
Oh my goodness, it have. I love nursing. Nursing has been a passion like growing up, but the last few years has been like there's no words. It's been so hard. Because I currently work as a float nurse. So what that is, I don't have a home unit, so I go all over the hospital wherever there's a need. So of course with COVID, there's been honestly surplus of needs, and it just felt like we were constantly opening COVID units and stuff, and it was busy. It was hard. There's a lot of anxiety and stuff, and actually changes on the way came from parts of that, because it's been a tough few years for sure. It has.
Well, how has it influenced your songwriting?
It has, so like I said, Changes on the Way was actually a song written from one of my so a little background of Changes on the Way. So I'm working, I consider myself one of those people that I bring about laughter. I like to laugh a lot. So it's nice to hear Ayiesha laughing. But anyway.
Yes, you're in good company.
That's correct. But anyways, working, we know when COVID started in 2019, we were I was one of those people that like, oh, it's going to be gone in like a few months.
Yeah.
And then
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. And a few months came and it's like, no, it's still here. A year later, it's still here. And I remember telling my coworkers, it's going to be okay. Like, we're going to get through this, you know? Yeah. And they're like, well, Tuzee, you said that last year. And I'm like, yep, we're going to get through it. And I remember one time, like, so I walk into a room, like almost all my patients had COVID and they were telling me, when is this going to be over, Tuzee? Like when, and I'm like, it's going to be over, you know, to be like optimistic. Like I believe it's going to be over 100%. But when you see it played over and over, so I remember just sitting to myself after I talked to I talked to patients that asked me those questions, coworkers, even my kids, like, you know, when they had to stay home from school, I'm like, Mom, is this ever going to be over? And it just became really overwhelming. And I'm sitting one time at work and I was like, God, what is going on? Like, you know, you got this. And it's almost like I heard change is on the way. It just came like change. And I kept saying, you know, change is on the way. And I just kept that the whole day, came home, grabbed my piano and honestly wrote the whole song, Change is on the Way. So so it does connect with my work. Absolutely. My music.
It's interesting you talking about the work that was involved during the pandemic. I guess officially the pandemic's not really over yet, but there's two kind of mindsets that I have on it or that I've seen. There was a lot of people that were forced to begin working from home. So there was that whole stress level of working from home with all the distractions and kids and, you know, daily stuff. You know, the doorbell rings or the phone rings and it's a personal phone call. How do you deal with all of that? And trying to get your work and job done and trying to keep your job because, you know, if they feel that you're not performing or they look at it saying, you know what, we really don't need to have as many staff. You know, maybe the productivity level went up or down, whatever the case. There's that whole part of it. And then the people that had to physically leave their house every day in, day out, every single day during this thing, like nurses and essential workers and whatnot. And yeah, traffic was great and there was nobody on the roads, but you still had to perform your job amidst all the other stuff going on and then still go home and deal with the stuff at home as well, right?
That's right. Yeah, I remember. It's funny because my husband is like IT background, so they had to work from home. And I remember like saying, "Oh, I wish I could work from home sometimes." But especially when COVID started, it was like we, you know, you usually work your face shift and then you stay home for a few days. But we got called in because there was not enough staff. People were getting so sick, so we had to go into work. And I remember the start was like, there was so much anxiety. You would find nurses on the side crying. Like, you know, it was just because we didn't know what we were dealing with really. It was, you know, just figuring out the whole thing. And, you know, I'm a patient, like a patient nurse. When my patients are hurting, it really does get to me. Like, you know, to see a patient that's like, going through like a COVID, we had to like intubate and stuff like that. It really like, you know, so it was hard. It still is, but it's getting there. You know, changes on the way. Absolutely is on the way for sure.
So what was it like as far as the music side of things for you then?
Oh goodness, I think I wrote so much. Like
it's a good time for that,
right? I know. By the way, Ayiesha, you're amazing. I was checking. I'm so sorry. Sorry, James, for not answering your question. I have to say, this. You're amazing. I was listening to a podcast with you guys, and what is he called? He's a musician that went platinum, fat something. But I went and listened to your stuff, and oh my goodness, you rock. You're so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
You haven't heard any of my music, I guess.
I was kind of wondering about that, James.
There is none. There is none. Don't worry. Thought I had to throw that in. Sorry.
I totally listen to it if you show me a channel or anything. But yeah, I actually really wrote a lot. I found myself, you know, just there's so much to write about. You know, I actually have album that I'm working on that's coming out soon. And I think like I wrote like there's a 1, 2, 3 songs on the album that I wrote in a day because there's just so much, so much to write about, so much to sing about, so much to be
Sure.
grateful for, and
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, it really enhanced my writing because seeing people just the whole atmosphere. I was just like coming, like even going to work and being able to come back home because there was sometimes there were nurses that had to be, go to emerge because, just too much stress and anxiety sometimes. But I got to come home, not that I'm any better than anybody. So all of that, yeah, I did write a lot. To answer your question, James, it did great time. Great time writing. Not great time for the situation, but to sit down and actually write. I had time to just come home because I call music my happy place. So when I go to work,
Sure.
where it's like stressful and stuff, when I get home, I can't wait. Take a shower, get on my piano. My husband's like, was it a bad day today? I was like, it's okay. I'm just going to play my music right now. So it's like, yeah.
Take you to that happy place. Was the podcast kind of birthed out of the same season or before or after?
Tuzee Tuesdays was I think it was a bit before COVID started. But yeah, my Tuzee Tuesday is a lot of fun. The big thing with Tuzee Tuesday, working with, I could consider myself as a senior nurse and working with a lot of like junior nurses. A lot of time we just need to be inspired. Not even juniors, I think everybody needs inspiration. So Tuzee Tuesdays really is big thing is inspiring each other, adding values to our lives and being vulnerable, as a like sometimes it's hard, to be, but I think being vulnerable was another piece of Tuzee Tuesday. There's a few of my episodes that I'm like maybe too vulnerable, but but yeah, it was great. Like I just started, and there's a lot of people that look forward to it. So yeah.
The one thing that has impressed me, Tuzee, about your musical career is you appear to have everything together. And I'll qualify that because you're relatively new on the Christian scene, but your music, your songs are very modern, they don't sound old. They don't sound like they're professionally recorded. They've got a great beat. They're very pop sounding in a sense, very attractive to listeners. There's that element, but also a lot of newer artists haven't figured out certain things like merch. And you've got merch on your website. They haven't figured out They haven't figured out the socials side of things, on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever else. They haven't got that figured out. And even the podcast element, not necessarily that every artist needs to do that, but you've got that going as well. You've got the streaming happening, you've got the podcast, you've got socials. So for you, as far as your musical career is concerned, what's working, what's not working for you?
So I'm just going to go back to saying I ain't got it all figured out.
Right. It's going to be different for everyone, sure.
Right.
I thank you very much for saying that. It makes me feel really good, but is it true? I don't have it all figured out. It's a work in progress,
Sure.
I have some really good people that supports me, like I say, my husband, he does a lot of behind the scene work for me, and I have a great producer. And I think it's just my passion to inspire people that really does motivate me to do all the other extras, And God's got it figured out too. So I'm working my way there. But no, there are some things I know for sure I could do better at, but it's coming. But thank you very much for saying that. That is very nice.
You've mastered, to a certain extent, you've mastered the multitasking aspect of it all.
Right. I think it comes with motherhood too. It's a little.
There you go.
Good point. Touche. There you go.
It
Yeah.
should. It should at least, because I suck at multitasking.
There's a little bit of that. But for what's working, what's not working, really, it's harder waiting things. It's just like I love doing the podcast. I find that's a lot to do though, like with my music, me working
Sure.
full time as a nurse, being a mom, it's a
Yeah.
lot to do. So sometimes I'm like a little bit like I was doing the podcast every week, and now I'm like, we're just gonna take a little bit of a break where I'm like focusing on putting this album out, but I will be getting
Yeah.
back to it. But it's just a lot to do, whether it's working or not working. For the podcast, I think people are being inspired because there's a lot of people that have reached out to me, like, you got to bring it back. There's a lot of negative in the world. We need some positivity. So that is a
Mm-hmm.
motivation for me, for sure, to say in that aspect that it is working. But yeah, it's just there's a lot that I'm doing, and sometimes it's just to keep up juggling is a little hard, but I love it, so I do it.
Sure.
I love doing it.
So for your project that's coming up, is there like a running theme for the project, or like what's the direction?
Are you referring to my album?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of a lot of it is just really like a lot of it is about referencing that God has it all for us. We like a big message in the album is like we matter in this world. We're not here by
Mm,
mistakes. We all
mhm.
have a part. Sometimes it feels like we don't, but actually God never makes mistake. So we're not
Sure.
mistakes, especially in this time, like with all the difficulty and stuff. And it's funny because with my album, when I first started, I had this album title and that I wanted it to be called. And then when all of the song is, because we've already recorded every song, just putting them together, and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't call it that. But it's like, but yeah,
So
but yeah,
you do have a name for it, or no? Not yet.
right now it is. Yeah, I do. I'm really leaning
Okay.
forward to it being called Alive. So
Nice.
that where I'm leaning forward. But if you listen to a lot of my messages, really inspiring people. So just Alive explains that fully. That's what my producer and I
Mm.
working that out.
And what's your timeline for this as far as releasing it?
So we had planned to release it in the fall. So of course we're already here. But
Sure.
with COVID, there's just been some like roadblocks and stuff. Like our timeline, I got sick, my producer got sick, the band got sick, so we had
Mm.
to keep pushing stuff. But we're hoping, like, if it's not the fall, for sure, absolutely January, definitely. But we're working really hard on it, and oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, there's some really amazing writing. So
You mentioned that you have a great producer, and I'm a little curious as far as maybe the recording process for the album. You mentioned some of the delays, but the actual process from, I guess, once you've finished writing a song, what was the process for you, given the fact that you came to Canada, this is all new for you, so you're kind of learning it as you go as well. How did you connect with people? How did you network with the right people? How did you find your producer?
I think God actually found him for me. It was when I first, because when I first started writing, it takes I've written like well over 100 songs, but like just actually coming out with my songs, it's like, is it good enough? Should I do it? Should I not? So
Sure.
family first listened to my songs and it's like, oh, I think it's great songs. And then I talked to a couple of different producers and they were all on board. There was one that actually wanted to sponsor my songs, but just had different goals than what I was looking at. And then just looking through online, and there was a friend he's not usually like talks music a lot, like he's more of a rock kind of a person, and he's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there's this guy, you know check him out, and I did. And I went to see him. Like, this is it. When I first went to see my producer, I missed the whole address because I don't know why. I drove to the wrong house, and I'm calling. I'm like, I can't see you. I can't find you. And he's like, well, maybe you're at the wrong place. But when we met up, it was just like we just sang like it was just wonderful. It's like his name is Andrew Horrocks. He's actually pretty big in the Christian producing world, and he does a great job with my music. Like my music, like I write. The thing I love about him, my music is the way. Like when I start to write it, he doesn't change my music. You know, it's like because what I write is what I feel and God wants me to write.
I feel you on that.
Right.
I know Andrew, and he's a great producer. He's produced a lot of music. He's actually not too far away from Toronto as well. He's a great guy, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you say he's the type of guy that's not trying to change your music or whatever else.
Right.
So, in your recording process, what was the time frame from connecting with Andrew to actually having a recorded track? Because that takes some time too, right? Laying down the various the tracks musically and also vocals and everything else.
So for changes, the first song we recorded together was Shine. So Shine, I think Shine came out just when COVID just hit. So it was like just like telling people that they have what it takes to make a difference in our darkened world. But I think when I first wrote it probably took us maybe 3 months or so just working because he let me do all my background vocals, So we will do the lead vocals and then work on the background vocals. And he's quite busy. For some reason, he kind of makes me, he puts me a little bit of a priority. So yeah, I think it took us maybe 3 to 5 months, maybe not that long, but because the song was already written, just went to him and he heard it and he's like, wow, this is a great song. So
did he ever come to you and say it's not a good song? Not on that particular song, but any other song? No, can I tell you, there's a lot of singer-songwriters that maybe think their stuff is good when really maybe it isn't.
Right.
And so I would hope that you have a producer that's honest enough to saying, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a song that you necessarily want to record or at least not release to radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is what he will say. He says, could you explain that song to me?
That's a very polite way of saying it.
He says, could you just explain it to me? Because he doesn't, and then I will explain it to him. And usually when I explain what the song is about, he's like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. And then he says, yeah. And being from Liberia, West Africa, we have our own colloquia. So when I write, even though I've been in Canada for how many years, I still will put those a little bit in there. And he would say, what are you trying to say here? Is this, so yeah, I know he will tell me, just not say that's a bad song, but he says, what are you really trying to say in this song?
Are you involved in your church as well?
I am, actually. Yes, I am.
Are you singing, obviously, right?
I don't sing as much, but I used to sing a lot with the worship team. Since the pandemic hit, everything was, when all the churches were closed and stuff, everything went down. And being a nurse, I was called in quite a lot. I had to work a lot, so I wasn't as much singing or at the church. I was more doing nursing than that. But no, when I'm not, I do. I sing with the worship team. I used to be a youth leader at church, and I love it. I used to work with the young adults as well. Love it very much. It's just finding the time, being right now with it so busy being a nurse. So but no, yeah, I still do. They actually are putting out I think I have I'm going to be doing Changes on the Way live for the it's a service that I'm doing.
Nice.
In November. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still involved. Whenever I can get to church, I'm there. I grew up in the church, so I'm You've
got a lot going on between, recording songs and working on this new album. of course, you've got the podcast going. You started that before the pandemic hit, you mentioned. And interestingly enough, I found that as soon as the pandemic hit, everybody and their mother decided they were going to start a podcast. Either that or write a book, right? That seemed to be the thing because people had so much time on their hands. But the funniest thing about the podcast specifically was a lot of people started a podcast. A lot of people didn't finish a podcast because they recognized how much work it was. And it is a lot of work to come up with a podcast.
Guilty as charged.
Well, it's a lot of work, putting it all together. Like,
it is.
I mean, from our standpoint, Ayiesha, it's not only the conversations that we had, but it's all the prep work for that too, arranging the guests,
sure.
Having the conversations, and all the stuff that happens after the fact. The editing and whatever else. And I think what a lot of people thought was maybe this is a great way to make some money, and then realized they can't make any money doing it. Because you got to spend just as much time selling this thing and trying to get sponsors or whatever else, right?
Right.
So for you, I mean, obviously you've indicated that it was a lot of work, and you're not doing as many now because you recognize the work, but you are going to keep this thing going?
Absolutely, yes. I was actually it's just the other night I was just listening to some of the podcasts, and I was like, oh wow, I miss doing podcasts. Yeah, I'm absolutely going to do it again. I would love to get back to it as soon as I can. I've been talking to a lot of nurses, because I also have Nurses with Talent on my podcast as well, and there's a lot of nurses that have asked, when can we start again? So yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Nurseswithtalent.com.
That's neat.
Well, it's kind of cool. So you've got that domain name. Do you have any more that you've got under your belt that you might release later on, or is that just the two domain names, the Nurses with Talent and then your website?
There's actually another one that I have. So it's called When Girls Get Together. So what that is from, I don't know about you, Ayiesha, but there is this saying that goes on, maybe this is a total African thing, that when ladies get together, they gossip a lot. There's nothing. But when girls get together, it talks about, we do a lot more than just gossiping. We build each other up. We build each other up. We can be advocates for people. We inspire.
Sure.
So when girls get together, it's another thing that I'm one day I'm hoping I can inspire, because I work with a lot of teenage girls, a lot of I have not just teenage but early 20s girls, youth, and I'll talk to them just about different things, and sometimes we meet together, and it's just nice, just someone say, oh, I'm having this kind of a day, and then we talk about how to get through it, and it's not just all about anyways, that's another one, James, that I have that I'm thinking
it's
girls around the world.
It's sad to say that when guys get together, it's usually just a bunch of small talk. Not as much as the ladies, that's for sure.
When girls get together, it's interesting because we can be apart or not talk for months on end, and then we'll get together, pick up where we left off.
That's true,
and
right?
And it's so good. It's so good for us. And if we don't speak again for another 6 months, then when we do connect again, it's just like before,
Yeah.
For a few hours.
We definitely need it. Yes.
We got to catch up, James. We got to catch
That's
up.
right.
No, I understand. Now, I do have to ask you, on the merch side of your website, I mean, first of all, kudos to you for doing that, because a lot of artists haven't figured out that that's a way to generate some income. And,
sure.
It's not going to be tons of money or whatever else. And I'm almost thinking to myself, do I need to have merch on my website? And what would I sell? You've got toques, you've got hoodies, you've got T-shirts, you've even got gift cards. I mean, what would somebody buy a gift card on my website for?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something.
Let's see, something.
Yeah, that's pretty vague. I think that's great.
Microphones. Look, microphones.
Maybe,
that's
yeah. We
right,
had that
right?
conversation last
Yeah.
week, yeah, just for stuff. But no, the gift card would be for them to spend money for themselves. That's all. No, I think it's great the fact that you're doing the merch stuff. And when you are actually performing, like, have you had a lot of gigs where you're either opening for somebody or headlining or anything like that? Has it come to that for you yet?
I actually haven't. I was supposed to have one this month, and then there was a cancellation because we just had, Canada and the weather. We just had a really bad weather. It was supposed to be outside in Barrie at the square, but then it didn't happen. So not very much yet, but
Right.
I'm optimistic it's going to come. So
And when you
looking
get to
forward
that point, will you have a booth set up and be selling merch, or is the merch just an online thing right now?
That's the plan. Like most of my stuff are online, but there's some stuff that I do have, like my Superstar T-shirts. I have some of those. I'm Incredible hoodies. I have some of those.
I thought she was saying she was
so-
incredible. You are incredible. Don't worry.
Yes, you are incredible.
We all are. We all are,
Yeah.
right? We all are. But that is the name of the hoodie. It's so funny
Yes.
because you know what, Ayiesha? I was actually just in Florida. It's my second home place. I love Florida.
Oh,
I
wow.
was just
Okay.
in Florida, in Orlando. Actually, I was just in Orlando. We go up there because the kids love Disney and stuff.
Yes.
But I had my I Am Incredible toque on my head. I'm saying toque. This is a
Okay.
Canadian thing.
Yes, it is, because I was like, toot.
Yeah. She had to go looking online. Google, what is a toque? How do you spell that?
a beanie or something. I don't know. What do you guys say actually? But,
Okay,
but
beanie. I got you
Yeah,
now.
my I Am Incredible beanie. And when we went to the border guard, he says, "Can I have your
Oh,
hat?"
yes.
And I was like, "What does he mean? He wants to have my
Oh.
hat?" And I was like, "Oh, you mean my I'm Incredible?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And he's just like, "That's such a cool hat." But yeah, it's
That's when you do a shameless plug. Tuzee.com. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I actually gave one of them my card. I was like, "It's there." But yeah, it's cool. It's always nice to wear them.
I think it's great the fact that you've already got product to be able to have available at a concert and whatever, because a lot of artists wouldn't get to that point yet. I've heard of everything from keychains to handmade things that people sell at their booth.
Right.
Because that obviously generates a little extra income.
certainly does.
Surprisingly, artists don't make tons of money. It costs a lot of money to record a song, like thousands and
Sure.
thousands of dollars per song, let alone an album. And even when
Right.
you do get to perform and be on stage, especially in the beginning, there's not a lot of money to be had even doing that. And ultimately, in the beginning, your goal is just to break even, right? And sometimes you don't. Like
Right.
I remember chatting with somebody I know who's an artist, and I basically said, "So are you making any money at this thing?" And his comment was, "No, this is a gift of love or whatever his reasoning for it, because there was no way he was making any money. This was costing him."
Right. Yeah, and it is costing me too, but it's the passion, the love for it. You do it. Being a indie artist, I think that's the one hardest part. Like I said, I've written so many songs, but because I can only release what I can afford right now, so I'm going through all these songs and like, which one? So yeah, it is not cheap. It's very expensive, but it's so good. It's one of those money you spend and you don't feel too bad
Right.
about.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
But yeah, it will makes things a lot. And having my merch is actually it's amazing because it doesn't sell as much as I would like it to, but it is out there, right? So it's a way of income. If it does pick up, that will be awesome. But no, you did say it right. That's one of the hardest thing of being an indie artist. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
The great thing about some of the merch that you can have is you don't have to necessarily stock it. It's made to order. So somebody orders a shirt, you wait till you get enough orders for it, and then you can place an order and hopefully maximize your profit on whatever product after shipping and everything else. So I've seen artists do that where they have product, but it's not necessarily physically sitting on a shelf or anything. It's
Right.
going to be made when you order it, which is great because there's no liability on your standpoint.
That's true.
Right.
Yes. So I had when my Superstar song came out, I had a bunch of T-shirts, and I sold quite a bit, but then I made a little too much. Like I just made it instead of just doing it online, and yeah. But yeah, a lot of my stuff is online. So like I will have some physical stuff for people to see that is actually good quality and stuff like that. But most of it's actually online for sure.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have a box in your garage with
Right. That's true. That's
T-shirts
That's true. That
from
is
last
so true.
season.
Well, you just have to
No
make
pun
sure they
intended.
never expire. The thing about clothing is unless it's a fashion thing, it's not like it
Right.
expires or goes stale or anything like that, right?
Right.
Well,
right.
these days nothing does, right? The 80s, the 60s, all coming back, so we're good.
Yeah, that's right.
Sure
20
enough.
years from now, I'm Incredible Toque if you want one.
Vintage.
Yeah, the vintage stuff.
Vintage.
You could charge more if it's vintage, right?
There you go.
You sure can.
Yeah, there you go. And you can give it away from the stage too. Throw it out to the audience, and get people
That's
thinking,
true.
"Hey, I want one of those." It looks like,
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, listen, Tuzee, thanks so much for hanging with us today. Really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm wishing you well in your musical career on that side of things. Your music's great, and I
Yes,
think
indeed.
the more of it gets out there, the more gigs you're going to get, the more merch you'll sell, and the more, not that it's all about money and stuff. Obviously, if you're in the Christian music world, it's
helps.
not about money, but it helps with the effort you put in.
It
It's
helps.
almost like having a hobby and enjoying what you're doing because it's a hobby, but being able to make a little bit money so you can help sustain this hobby is the nice part of
Sure.
it, right? So,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you guys so much. I'm so thankful for, I'm like, I don't know if you guys seen, but my song Changes on the Way was number 6 on More Radio. So I'm so thankful.
Congratulations.
Like, thank you so much. Thanks. But yeah, it's been like, wow. Thank you. Like, thanks so much. Every radio station that plays my song. Thank you to you guys for actually talking to me. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that
You're welcome.
so much. Nice to meet you guys for sure.
Likewise. Take care.
Yes, you too.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye. Really enjoyed that conversation with Tuzee on Between the Grooves. Make sure you check out her website. What's that website, Ayiesha?
It is 2, like numerical 2, hyphen, ZEE.com.
So it's the numerical 2. You said hyphen, I say dash, but that's okay. Dash ZEE. Z, of course, the Canadian way of saying Z. And if you're listening from the U.S., you're thinking, what is Z all about? But it's for our American friends, 2-ZEE.com. But you said Z. What's that all about?
You know what? Just coming up, I'm originally from Bermuda, so Z has always been Z for us.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Does anybody ever look at you strangely when you say that? Like when you're doing your ABCs or whatever?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who is she?
He said, Zed.
She doesn't have a clue. What is she talking about?
I have a nephew named Zed. Zed?
Oh, Z. Oh, okay. There you go. Well, thank you once again, Tuzee. And it's now time for artist advice. This week coming from Ryan Ellis.
Remember the passion. Remember the passion. I would say that is the number one key because everything else is birthed out of that. And when you remember what the passion is, whether it's, man, I love connecting with people. I love making music with people, and whatever it is, you have to remember what that is and keep it. It's Jesus. Jesus. I love making music for Jesus. I love, remember that is what's going to. If that's what got you here, then that's what's going to sustain you. And so keeping God at the center of it all.
So he said, remember the passion. Immediately, my mind went to the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the Passion.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the same vein, that's really what it comes down to. And all about Christ and what he came to do. And that's what's most important. And that's what matters most. And if we can keep that in mind, gosh, I think we'd go so much further and just add to enhancing and building his kingdom here on earth.
Yeah, I found the words to be pretty powerful. Remember the Passion. And what went through my mind is the fact that in a musical career, you often get bogged down with the work, the behind-the-scenes business of it all, and lose focus on why you're doing it, right? And again, back to the movie The Passion, you know, Christ dying on the cross and all the gory stuff that happened, and you understand that, you know, that's what it was all about. So, well, there you go. Thank you to Ryan Ellis for sharing words of wisdom for our artist advice this week. And that is it for this week's episode of Between the Grooves. And you know how I know that? Because hear the music? That means that's Justine telling us we're out of time. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And if you've got any comments or questions, leave them there as well. We love to get back to you and perhaps even chat about it on one of our upcoming episodes of Between the Grooves.
Thanks for listening to Faith Strong Today's Between the Grooves podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider sharing it with your friends, rating our podcast, or giving us some love on your socials to your amazing friends and followers will only help us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you and share your feedback in an upcoming episode. Send your video or written message to Ayiesha and James on Facebook and Twitter @Between Grooves, or email us anytime, hello@faithstrongtoday.com.